Hello everyone, this is your crafty cat here. So I decided today that I was going to start a how-to video. So first what you're going to need is a sketchbook or paper of any type. I would honestly recommend using a heavier weight paper. You just have better effects using it. Next you're going to need your pencils. You have a 4H, a 2B and a 6B, along with a pink pearl eraser and kneaded eraser. Along with that, you'll need a piece of white chalk, a sharpener, a rolled paper smudger, and you can also use Q-tips as well. So first we're going to start with making a line from corner to corner. The corners represent the inner corner of the eye and the outer corner of the eye. Next, you're going to make the general shape of the eye, following with the top, which will follow along the orbital socket. And then you're going to make the bottom lid, which follows more along the shape of the actual orb of the eye. Next, you're going to start adding a little bit of depth to your lids by creating essentially the top and bottom portion of the lids. This is also where your eyelashes are going to be. You can also follow with making the fold of the eye right underneath the eyebrow but above the top lid, and the dip right underneath the inner eye or the lower lid. Next, we're going to start drawing the iris of the eye, which is circular in its shape itself. The iris of the eye is actually quite large, taking up about 1/3 of the shape of the eye. The other 2/3 are made up of the sclera, or the white of the eyes. Here you can see we're defining that a little bit. Now we're going to add in the pupil of the eye, which depending on the size varies on how much light is in the room and how much light is shining in the eye. The iris of the eye actually protects the retinas, which is what makes your pupil bigger or smaller. To remember about how big to make your iris and your pupil, about where to position them, remember them, they're about halfway between the 2 points of the eye. We're just sketching a really simple eyebrow for right now. It's more or less as a reference point than anything. As you can see, the inner corner of the eye is really close to the inner corner of your eyebrow. The outer corner of the eye, more or less, you can follow a 45-degree angle from the corner of your eye to the edge of your eyebrow. So now we're going to start adding in the eyelashes. You don't have to be super detailed with the eyelashes, but you do want to be able to follow the direction of the follicles. You also want to remember that the eyelashes that are closer to the outer corner of the eye are a lot longer and thicker than the lashes that are towards the inner eye. Now we're going to start adding in the lower lashes, which are a lot more sparse than the upper eyelashes. And we can go ahead and start filling in our pupil if that is what you so desire. We're also making basically a reference point along the bridge of the nose. Now we're going to be going in with our 2B pencil, which is a darker and softer lead than our 4H. We're going to go in and darken our pupil again. Something to remember when we're doing values is the body does not have any particular hard edges. So when you're doing your values, that is something to really remember. The only time you're going to have a hard edge, so to speak, is if you're doing a high contrast drawing. Now we're going to be taking our smudge tool and just smudging that pupil. You can also use the same tool to add in lighter values because it does pick up that graphite. This is actually, the values here are a little darker, so we're going to take our kneaded eraser and press against the page to pick up that graphite. You don't really need to wiggle it too much. You just want to kind of tap it along the graphite, and that'll pick that up. You can also go in with a Q-tip, and this will help also lighten up your values a little bit, and it also softens those edges. Now we're going in with our 6B pencil, which is the softest of our pencils. And this is a darker lead because it's a softer lead. Basically, the difference between the hardness of a lead and the softness of the lead is just how much graphite it leaves behind. We're going to start adding a little bit of value to our irises by adding in the shapes that the irises make. And just going over and darkening in the darker areas. We'll go in with our 2B pencil here in a minute and go over the lighter portions. We'll darken the darker edges later on. Here we're taking our smudge pencil or smudge tool as well and smoothing that out. We're defining the corners and folds of our eye now. And we're going back into the eyebrow and starting to add detail in that. We're not going to get super specific with the detail. Something important to remember, unless you're doing hyper realism, is that suggestion is a very powerful tool. I use suggestion a lot when working on my paintings and my drawings. So you don't have to add in a lot of detail. You'll have to forgive the change in light. The lighting that I was using died, so I had to use something else. We're going in, we're starting to add in the darker values along the bridge of the nose and within the eyebrow and right in the outer corners of the eyes, which they dip in more than the inner corners, which helps also create that roundness, but it's also darker as well. Something to remember when you're making your eyebrows is the eyebrow follows the top edge of your orbital socket. So you're going to have a basically a dip in towards your upper eyelid. And we're just going in and darkening some more. And now we're going to go in and start defining our edges some more, adding a little bit more detail. Again, suggestion is a powerful tool. Remember that when you're using it. And also, don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's a learning tool that I learned myself when I was still in art school. So if you make something too dark or too light, you can always go in and adjust. Especially when it's an easier material to use like graphite, there's really no reason to be scared on making mistakes. Even someone who's a perfectionist like myself, I tend to make mistakes because that's how I learn how to do a technique or find a technique that I find works best for me. I didn't realize that the corner of my light was right there in the camera, but it doesn't seem to block too much, so I'm not too awful worried about it. And we're going in, and one of the great things about eyelashes is I didn't do every little hair. I just made a general shape and filled it in, and it created the illusion of eyelashes, which again is that tool of suggestion. I'm just going in and smoothing edges now. Again, when you're doing value on the human body, there are no hard edges, just as there are little to no pure blacks or pure whites. The only pure black you'll find will be the pupils of the eyes, or the very inside of your mouth where light can't quite reach, and the whites of your eyes and the highlights will be the only parts that are actually a white, so to speak. Everything else is usually a very light gray. We'll go over the levels of value in a later video. As you can see, the Q-tip, it helps soften the edges a lot. Now we're going in with a charcoal pencil, which I forgot to add in with the list of supplies. Go in with a charcoal pencil, and that'll help create your darkest of darks. Such as your pupil or that shadow right in the outer corner of your eye, and your brow line as well. This will also help darken your eyelashes and the details in the iris. With the charcoal pencil, I didn't really smoothen or soften too much because I kind of like that rough quality to my pictures. But if you're someone that likes a lot of smooth values, then it's perfectly fine to go in and soften with your Q-tip or your smudge tool. Now what I'm using right here is a white charcoal pencil, but I didn't create the effect that I quite wanted, so I actually came in with a white piece of charcoal that I came in to help with the highlights of the picture. And then we're going to go in with our charcoal pencil, the regular charcoal pencil, and again, just darken everything that needs to be darkened. And this is our final result. So thanks for watching the video. If you're interested in more videos like this, I do plan on making more. If you would like to see more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell to know when I upload. So thanks for watching.